Hello there, very good evening and welcome to the news tonight here on Sabha TV, your one stop for the day's top stories. I'm Tracy Shilshi and here are the headlines. Surgical strikes across the LOC did take place earlier, admits Foreign Secretary S. Jaishankar to the Parliamentary Panel on External Affairs. Jaishankar clarifies this is the first time a government has made it public. Prime Minister Narendra Modi lauds the Indian Army at the Parivartan rally in Himachal Pradesh, compares the surgical strikes to exploits of Israeli forces, credits the NDA government with resolving the one rank, one pension issue. The Prime Minister also launches the National SC/ST Hub for Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises in Ludhiana, new centre to support entrepreneurs and strengthen market access for the community. Death toll in Bhubaneswar hospital fire officially confirmed at 20. State government orders high-level probe into the blaze that trapped 500 patients inside the building. And after securing 20 villages on the outskirts of Mosul in the first 24 hours of their operation, Iraqi forces paused the offensive to allow Kurdish army to consolidate their gains. Our top story in this one's big. In remarks that seem to contradict Defence Minister Manohar Parrikar's claims, Foreign Secretary S. Jaishankar is reported to have told the Parliamentary Committee on External Affairs that, and I quote, target-specific, limited caliber, counter-terrorist operations, unquote, across the line of control have been carried out in the past as well. But this is the first time that a government has gone public about it. The panel members reportedly asked the Foreign Secretary specifically whether surgical strikes had been done in the past. Parrikar has been quoted in the media as stating that there was no surgical strike any time earlier and that actions could have been taken by border action teams earlier were covert operations. These, he said, were not official actions approved by the government and done without the knowledge of anyone. So this definitely coming in as a big contradiction. Remember, just last week, in fact, it was a war of words between Manohar Parrikar and the Congress, with Manohar Parrikar, of course, claiming that the Congress saying that surgical strikes kind of operations have, of course, taken place during the Congress's time as well. He, of course, called them false. As a result of that, we, of course, did see the spokespersons of the Congress coming out, in fact, seeking apology from the Defence Minister on that. We're in fact joined by our correspondent Vishal Daya for more on this story. Vishal, can you give us some more details really on what exactly did Mr. Jaishankar say and how does this, of course, contradict what the Defence Minister and, of course, several other BJP leaders have been saying?
Well, Tracy, this is, of course, all source-based information since this was a meeting of the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Ministry of External Affairs. And as the norm is and the tradition as well, that the proceedings of such committees are not made public and no public comments are made by those members of the Parliament who attend the committee as well as those officials who brief those members on specific issues. But what our sources are telling us and what even the news agency PTI has been quoting its sources saying the similar thing, that during the course of this particular meeting of this particular standing committee today in the second half, which was also attended by the Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi, since he is also a member of that particular committee, the briefing was being given by the Foreign Secretary Jaishankar as well as the Special Secretary from Ministry of Home Affairs at DGBSF and Vice Chief of the Army. And this particular briefing was, with respect to Indo-Pak relations, specifically in the aftermath of the surgical strikes which were undertaken by Indian Armed Forces late last month. And clearly what we are being told is that during the course of that discussion, one of the members happened to ask a question as to whether or not the Indian Armed Forces had carried out such operations earlier. and the answer from the Foreign Secretary was in affirmative. Clearly, one thing, if you go by the kind of statements which have been coming in from the opposition after the surgical strike, specifically from the Congress, was that such operations have earlier also been undertaken by the Indian Armed Forces, and this is nothing. There's nothing new about it, though the force, or rather the extent of this particular operation may be more than or larger than what it was in the earlier operations. But there was no confirmation of the similar statement, or rather agreement to the similar statement from the government, channels, from the government officials or even the ministers. In fact, if all of us would know that Defense Minister, in fact, just a few days ago had sort of trashed this particular claim which was made by the Congress.
That's right, which is why it is so significant that this statement, of course, is coming in. At the moment, of course, we are learning it from our sources, and the PTI news agency also learning it from its sources. Within no time, perhaps we'll be getting a confirmation on what really went on in that Parliamentary Affairs and External Affairs meeting that went on today, what exactly was said officially. But at least the sources now saying that this was admitted, that surgical strikes, maybe not of this this range, of course, took place earlier as well. And this is the first time that a government has come out publicly, is what our sources are saying. Vishal, thanks so much for joining us on this story. Of course, this surgical strike, at least the one that took place in September, continues to remain in news. Prime Minister Narendra Modi today inaugurated 3 hydropower projects in Himachal Pradesh. And while addressing a public rally in Mandi district of the state, he also spoke on those surgical strikes that took place in POK. He likened the Indian Army's covert operation to Israel's exploits, adding that the Indian forces have shown that they are no less than anybody.
आजकल पूरे देश में हमारी सेना के पराक्रम की चर्चा हो रही है। पहले कभी हम इजराइल ने ऐसा किया सुनते थे, लेकिन देश ने देखा कि भारत की सेना भी किसी से कम नहीं है।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi lauding the Indian Army at a huge Parivartan rally in Mandi, Himachal Pradesh on Tuesday. Referring to last month's surgical strikes on terrorist bases in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, the Prime Minister said the Army's valor is being discussed across the country these days. Modi also used the opportunity to credit his government for resolving the issue of equalizing pension payouts for retired soldiers, which he said had been pending for 40 years.
One rank, one pension, 40 साल से लटका हुआ सवाल, देश के लिए मर मिटने वालों का सवाल, ये सरकार है जो देश की सेना का गौरव करने वाली उस काम को पूर्ण कर दिया। और आज जहां भी जाता हूं, न सिर्फ फौजी, लेकिन फौज के परिवारजन मुझे इतने आशीर्वाद देते हैं कि मुझे ऐसे लोगों के लिए कुछ और करने का हमेशा एक नया उत्साह मिलता है, ताकत मिलती है, मेरा हौसला बुलंद होता है।
At the rally, Modi also targeted the ruling Congress government in Himachal Pradesh ahead of the assembly polls in the state next year.
भारतीय जनता पार्टी ने मुख्यमंत्री दिए तो कोई पानी के लिए अपने आप को खपा दिया, तो किसी ने सड़क के लिए खपा दिया, और भी लोग आए जिन्होंने अपने लिए न जाने क्या-क्या खपा दिया।
The Prime Minister was in the Hill State to inaugurate 3 mega hydropower projects. With a generating capacity of 1,732 megawatts, the 3 projects are equipped with generating equipment supplied and commissioned by Bharat Heavy Electricals Limited. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And in fact, the Prime Minister also launched various schemes in Ludhiana ahead of the assembly polls in Punjab next year. They include a national SC/ST hub and the Zero Defect, Zero Effect on Environment scheme for micro, small and medium enterprises sector. Chief Minister Prakash Singh Badal and Deputy Chief Minister Sukhbir Singh Badal were also present on the occasion.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Tuesday launched the national SC/ST hub for micro, small and medium enterprises in Ludhiana. With an initial outlay of 490 crore rupees, the hub will support entrepreneurs from the community. It will also strengthen market access linkage and sharing industry best practices. Modi also presented national awards to the MSME industrialists at Punjab Agriculture University.
आज मेरे लिए खुशी की बात है कि लुधियाना में लघु उद्योग क्षेत्र का एक लघु भारत आज मेरे सामने है। भारत के आर्थिक जीवन में बदलाव लाने के लिए विकेंद्रित अर्थव्यवस्था को बल देना, सूक्ष्म एवं लघु उद्योगों को ताकत देना, ग्लोबल मार्केट को टारगेट करते हुए आगे बढ़ना, इस सुरेख सोच के साथ भारत सरकार पूरी तरह आपके साथ खड़ी है।
The Prime Minister also praised the Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises, calling it a crucial sector for economic development.
आज खादी की क्वालिटी देखिए, खादी का पैकेजिंग देखिए, खादी ने कॉर्पोरेट वर्ल्ड को कॉम्पीट करे उस रूप में अपने आप को प्रस्तुत करने का सफल प्रयास किया है। और एक बात सही है कि जब आजादी का आंदोलन चल रहा था तो खादी का अपना एक महत्व था। उस समय का मंत्र था खादी फॉर नेशन। अब देश आजाद है, हमें आर्थिक क्रांति की ओर जाना है और इसलिए आज का मंत्र है खादी फॉर फैशन।
Modi also launched Zero Defect, Zero Effect on an Environment scheme for the MSME sector. The ZED scheme was first mentioned by the Prime Minister in his Independence Day speech in 2014. It denotes high-quality manufacturing with a minimal negative impact on environment. On the occasion, the Prime Minister distributed 150 charkhas to women and also tried his hand at a charkha. He also visited a khadi exhibition at Punjab Agriculture University and inaugurated a coir wreath. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Meanwhile, Pakistani troops continue to violate ceasefire along the line of control. In fact, on Monday night, Pakistani Rangers fired with small arms and shelled mortar guns on forward Indian posts in Rajouri district. A few rounds were also fired in Naushera sector, but Indian forces retaliated effectively. There are no reports of any casualty or injuries in the firing. After the army's surgical strikes in POK on the 29th of September, Pakistan has violated ceasefire nearly 30 times, forcing villagers near the border areas to flee to safer places. Meanwhile, normal life in Kashmir Valley continued to be crippled for the 102nd day today amid a shutdown call given by separatists. Streets and roads were deserted. Schools and colleges have also been closed for more than 3 months now, derailing academic sessions. Now to Goa, where the declaration of the BRICS summit failed to put India's concern on terrorism in a proper perspective. And this prompted External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj to make a statement that the conglomeration of Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa cannot shy away from taking a firm stand on this major issue. Without naming China, she did say that terrorism should not be tolerated for a narrow agenda of a few countries.
After the conclusion of the BRICS and BIMSTEC summits in Goa, External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj inaugurated the BRICS Media Summit in Delhi on Tuesday. The summit will discuss the media-related issues and approaches of member countries. Swaraj dwelled on the need to sensitize media personnel on the issue of terrorism, especially in the context of Pakistan.
There is a developing consensus that it cannot be business as usual. We must be prepared to extract costs for those who sponsor and support terrorists, who provide them sanctuary, and who, despite their own claimed victimhood, continue to make the false distinction between good and bad terrorists. BRICS has always been global in its approach, and today there is no bigger global challenge than state-sponsored and state-protected terrorism.
In remarks aimed at Chinese support for Pakistan, Sushma Swaraj said BIMSTEC had sent out a strong signal on collaborating for development, even as it rejected Pakistan's attempt to block connectivity among member nations and cripple SAARC.
These are nations who are actively promoting connectivity, cooperation, and context amongst themselves. Their interface with the BRICS has a message in itself. This is that a world changing in a positive direction, as reflected by the BRICS, has its regional expression in a community like BIMSTEC, that is able to visualize a prosperous collective future. There cannot be a greater contrast with those who reject even trade and connectivity for political reasons.
The media summit marks the end of the present series of dialogue among BRICS nations this year. On the issue of terror, the BRICS declaration named Al-Nusra, Al-Qaeda and other terrorist groups, but avoided groups like Jaish-e-Mohammed and the Lashkar-e-Taiba that affect India and its neighborhood. But India's efforts at the summit indicate that the government will persist with its determination to create a consensus on both terror and its sponsors in the region.
BIMSTEC countries have given a very positive signal for mutual cooperation, and Pakistan must learn from it. But in BRICS, China also must understand, without condemning the acts of terrorism, BRICS countries cannot achieve what they wanted to. Akhilesh Suman for Rajya Television with camera person Junaid in Delhi.
At least 20 people have been killed after a fire broke out in a hospital in Bhubaneswar in Orissa. The state government has filed 2 FIRs alleging negligence in conduct and safety against the hospital. The Prime Minister has also directed officials to offer all possible help to treat the patients.
In one of the worst such incidents involving hospitals in Odisha, a massive fire broke out at the Institute of Medical Sciences and Some Hospital on Monday evening. The fire is suspected to have been triggered by an electric short circuit in the dialysis ward on the first floor of the hospital. It then spread to the nearby ICU.
जो कंप्लीट एक्सीडेंट है, हम लोग हमेशा पॉजिटिव में हैं, हम लोग का कोई कारण इसमें असुविधा का कारण कोई नहीं है.
More than 500 indoor patients were trapped inside the building when the fire broke out. At least 7 fire tenders were pressed into service to control the blaze, and over a dozen ambulances deployed to shift the critical patients to other hospitals. Many patients were rescued by breaking window panes. Many of the victims suffocated to death.
माननीय मुख्यमंत्री ने आरडीसी लेवल इंक्वायरी का ऑर्डर किया है, तो आरडीसी सेंट्रल डिवीजन वो इंक्वायरी करेंगे.
Chief Minister Naveen Patnaik described the incident as very tragic and directed government hospitals to provide necessary treatment to patients. The state government says it will review the situation and decide whether a police case needs to be registered.
Permission is given by the fire department, but implementation is the responsibility of the hospitals. And we will now make sure that all hospitals are strictly following whatever precautions have to be taken.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi expressed anguish over the incident and directed officials to offer all assistance to the state. Health Minister JP Nadda also directed AIIMS Bhubaneswar to provide all necessary support.
प्रधानमंत्री जी का निर्देश मुझे आया कि हम सारी व्यवस्थाओं को देखें और स्वास्थ्य की दृष्टि से जो वहाँ पेशेंट्स हैं उनका इंतजामात को देखा जाए. उसी समय हम लोगों ने ऑल इंडिया इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ मेडिकल साइंसेज भुवनेश्वर उसको सतर्क किया. वहाँ हमारे रात से ही डायरेक्टर, मेडिकल सुपरिंटेंडेंट और स्पेशलिस्ट और सभी डॉक्टर्स मौजूद हैं.
The state government says it will bear the cost of treating all the 106 patients who have been shifted to various hospitals. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
The Supreme Court has retained its direction to Karnataka to release 2,000 cusecs of Kaveri water per day to Tamil Nadu till further orders. It also asked both governments to ensure peace and harmony, saying that citizens should not become law unto themselves. Meanwhile, mass rail blockades by opposition parties and farmers continued for the second day at various places across Tamil Nadu on Tuesday. Police detained Tamil Manila Congress leader G.K. Vasan and about 300 farmers for staging protests. Leading an agitation at the Egmore railway station, MDMK and VCK chiefs, along with several workers, including those from the left parties, blocked an express train. Similar protests witnessed huge participation of people in the Kaveri Delta region of the state, including in Tiruchirappalli and Thanjavur districts. And here are more national news updates in Nationwide. Manipuri activist Irom Sharmila on Tuesday launched a new political party called Praja, or the People's Resurgence and Justice Alliance. She said that she will contest the Manipur Assembly elections to be held early next year. Irom said that the party would be based on the principles of justice, understanding, love and peace. She will contest 2 assembly seats of Thoubal and Khurai. Thoubal is the constituency of the Manipur Chief Minister Okrame Bobi Singh. Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Akhilesh Yadav ordered a judicial probe into the Varanasi stampede that claimed 25 lives and left over 100 people injured. The one-man inquiry commission has been asked to submit his report within 2 months. The incident occurred on the overcrowded Rajghat Ganga Bridge on Saturday. Two people were killed in a fire that broke out in a residential society in Mumbai early on Tuesday morning. The incident took place on the 20th floor of the Maker Towers. Fire tenders from Kolaba rushed to the spot, rescuing two men who were trapped on the 20th floor. The fire brigade has initiated investigations into the cause of the fire. Members of the National Commission for Minorities have criticized the National Human Rights Commission report on the alleged migration of several families from Kerala. Members of the minority panel said that the migration was not based on communal nature and that people of both Hindu and Muslim communities had left Kerala to pursue better business opportunities in other places. After the 7 old IITs refused to add more seats to their 4-year Bachelor of Technology programs, citing stretched resources, second-generation IITs in Hyderabad, Mandi, Ropar, Patna and Jammu are expected to increase their undergraduate student strength from next year. There are currently 23 IITs across the country. International newsline: Iraqi Kurdish forces have paused their advance towards Mosul as they hold on to consolidate the gains made on the first day of the fight against the Islamic State. The armed forces said that on Tuesday they had made considerable gains in the first 24 hours of the operation, capturing 20 villages on the outskirts of the city.
After making considerable gains on the first day of the fight to recapture Mosul, Iraqi forces have paused their offensive for a while, following a request from the Kurdish army for more time to achieve the objectives. The pause comes after a day of intense fighting involving airstrikes, heavy artillery and a counter from the Islamic State car bombs. Armed forces closing in on Mosul said they had secured 20 villages on the outskirts of the city in the first 24 hours of the operation.
رزگارکردنی موصل لروشهالات و لباشوری موصل اپراسیونەکە دەستی پێکردووە و هاوبەشە لە بینی جیشی عێراقی و هێزی پێشمەرگەی کوردستان.
The assault on the Islamic State's last stronghold is being carried out by a coalition of 30,000 Iraqi and Kurdish Peshmerga forces and Sunni tribal fighters, along with air support from the US-led coalition. However, a strong resistance is expected from the 4,000 to 8,000 Islamic State fighters who've already turned to smoke shield in the hope of impairing the visibility of coalition bomber jets.
Darlene, I'm not aware that any sort of specific time frame has been laid out for when that operation would be completed. Obviously, this represents the next important step in our campaigns or our campaign against ISIL in Iraq. The United States has mobilized a 67-member coalition to support the Iraqi government and Iraqi security forces as they seek to rid ISIL from their country.
But the biggest concern of the battle remains the civilians trapped in the area. The Islamic State has resorted to using civilians as human shield before and could do it again.
Our concern is that civilians are at extreme risk from crossfire, from possible artillery barrage. We understand that ISIL has booby-trapped large parts of the city. We understand that there's extensive contamination by explosive hazards. We're very worried about snipers.
The start of the offensive on Mosul was announced by Iraqi Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi before dawn on Monday. The fall of Iraq's second-largest city, 2 years after being captured, would effectively signal the defeat of the Islamic State in Iraq. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Russian and Syrian warplanes, meanwhile, on Tuesday halted their strikes on Aleppo in preparation for a temporary truce that Moscow has announced for later in the week. Moscow's announcement for a humanitarian pause between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. on Thursday is to allow civilians and militants safe passage out of the city. Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu said that the halt in strikes could also help pave the way for terrorists to leave the rebel-held parts of the city. Syrian rebels, including al-Qaeda terrorists as well as the wounded and sick, will be allowed to leave to the neighboring province of Idlib. Meanwhile, the European Union has called for an immediate ceasefire in Aleppo, voicing strong concerns about the humanitarian situation in the Syrian town. The bloc has condemned Russia's air campaign in Syria, saying that it may be guilty of war crimes and that it vowed to impose more sanctions on President Bashar al-Assad's government.
Приостановка уже вступила в силу полетов авиации сирийского правительства и воздушно-космических сил Российской Федерации, то это жест доброй воли.
I insisted on the fact that the issue of Aleppo is vital, is crucial. Any discussion that forgets the fact that between now and December, if we are not finding a solution for Aleppo, Aleppo will be not there anymore.
In other news, the Supreme Court has dismissed a review petition filed by the BCCI to look into the verdict passed by the court in the Lodha panel logjam. The Cricket Board had asked the court to consider a review of the verdict, where the court had accepted the Lodha panel recommendations, consisting of a wide range of suggestions for the board to implement. Of the more important reforms are one state, one vote, and one person, one post, and 70-year age limit for office bearers. However, BCCI has been reluctant to implement these reforms since the verdict was passed in July. In a hearing on Monday, the court had decided to consider imposing monetary sanctions on the BCCI until it implements the reforms. But the court reserved its orders on several other issues. The court has already barred BCCI from handing funds to state associations, with some state bodies also being disallowed from using these funds.
It's a setback to the BCCI, but we will have to wait for the final judgment of the Supreme Court to come. I don't blame the BCCI for the review petition, because ultimately the BCCI is a body which consists of all the associations, and most of the associations, they all have separate constitution.
And here are more updates from the world of sports in Sports Beat. Indian shuttler Saina Nehwal was appointed as the member of the International Olympic Committee's Athletes Commission. In a rare honour for an Indian sportsperson, Saina received a letter to the effect from the IOC President Thomas Bach. The Athletes Commission is chaired by Angela Ruggiero and comprises 9 vice presidents and 10 other members. Liverpool and Manchester United played out an uneventful goalless draw at Anfield. A strong defensive play from United prevented Liverpool from a 5th successive Premier League victory. After the draw, Liverpool are 4th in the table with 17 points, while United are 7th with 14 points. Pakistan clinched a thrilling 56-run win over West Indies in the day-night test in Dubai. Chasing a total of 346 on the final day, the West Indies side was spurred on by Darren Bravo's 249 ball 116, but it proved to be insufficient as Pakistan wrapped up victory with 12 overs to spare. Azhar Ali was adjudged man of the match. That's all we have for you in the news tonight. Thanks for joining us.